Hi, welcome to my channel. This is Mindful Yoga with Yogi Beth C. That's me, Beth. Today's practice is going to be yoga stretches for back tightness, back discomfort, back pain. Now, I'm not a medical doctor, so I'd advise that you check with your doctor before going into any of these stretches, especially if you're experiencing more moderate or severe pain. The way I've structured this video is you don't have to do the whole thing. I've offered chapters down below, so you can pick and choose and see which of these gentle stretches works best for what you're experiencing, works best to provide you with some relief from whatever is going on with your own back. Okay, you will need one block for this practice. A small blanket or even a large towel will work, and then a chair or something else sturdy to rest your hands on. It could be a desk, it could be a table, it could even be the wall. We're going to come down to hands and knees, no props needed to start. So we're going to start with some variations of cat-cow pose. Cat-cow pose is a really common sequence in yoga to stretch the spine. We'll do some different variations to see how that affects where you're feeling your back pain. So hands come down. Knees are under the hips, and your feet can be tucked or flat on the mat. I'm going to have mine tucked here. This is the traditional tabletop position where we usually start for our cat-cow. I'll suggest that you walk your hands a little closer to your body than you might usually have. And then come into your rounded back position, your cat position, moving slowly and paying attention to whether there's any areas of pain or tightness as you do this, and being really gentle. So you might have a little kitten here, a smaller cat. Not looking to go to the maximum, we're exploring. Then we're going to walk our hands a little away, maybe widen your knees a bit. You could draw your feet together if you like as you sink your chest, reach your chest and your head forward, tipping your back or curving your back the opposite direction. This is our cow pose. Let's do this a few times, and you can adjust your hands and feet as feels best for you. This time, as you round up into your cat, feel like you're pulling your hands back toward you and pressing your knees a little bit more into the ground. A little more isometric action. It might change the feeling that you get in your back. And you can keep your hands here or move them to the other position as you go the other direction, this time feeling like you're pushing your hands and your knees away from you as you stretch. I'm going to come back through tabletop. This time I'm going to walk my hands a little bit more to you. And again, come into that round back position. If you have back pain on one side, you're likely to feel it here. You may feel this more in your hips. Come back through center. If you'd like to explore some version of a cow pose in center, you can. And then walk your hands to the other side. Find sort of a short side cat here. Let's go back to the center. A few more. If you want to place your hands and knees in the more standard traditional position, you can do that. Remember wherever you are to go slow and notice how your own back is feeling today. Let your breath be nourishing for you. You might breathe in as your chest moves forward and expands. And then as you exhale, you can even blow out through the mouth. Find a rounding. One more, breathing in. And exhale, round. All right, slowly walk your hands in. And we also want to be very gentle as we move between poses because our back might stiffen up or we might feel just different things going on. We're going to come up to standing. And you'll take your chair or be near your furniture, whatever you're using. If you're using a chair, I do recommend that you have all four corners on the mat so it's safe, it's not going to go off anywhere. We'll also grab the block here. So the block, I'm going to use it in this low position right between my thighs. Now you can adjust whether it's just above the knees, whether it's higher up. That's going to affect how this feels in between your legs, so you can explore that. I'm having mine right in mid-thigh range. So I have my feet close enough together that I can feel a gentle grip on the block. It's almost as if your thighs are spinning in toward each other. And by having that action, you can even have your hands here and sort of feel that idea of your thighs rolling in toward the block. You might start to feel a little bit of expansiveness in your back. I'm going to step a little bit further away from our chair. We're going to take a version of forward fold here with the block in between our legs. So keep that action of spinning toward the block, hands on your hips to start, soften your knees a little bit and still pushing in toward the block. And remember, we're always moving slowly so we can be aware of anything that's happening as we move. I'm taking breaths as I move, keeping my knees with that little bit of a bend here. And if you get to the place where your chest is facing the chair, you can release your hand, let your hands rest lightly on the chair or your table. If you're at the wall, your hands would be here at the wall with a little bit more extension to your arms. So even in this position, keep that sensation of your thighs rolling in. Almost feels like you could pop the block behind you. And I'm also trying to find length in my back, so sending my tailbone away, the crown of my head in the opposite direction. I'm not rounding here, I'm staying long and extended. And we breathe, we continue to breathe in this position. Now, if you'd like, if your body has the space and the room for it, you might come down further and rest your forearms. Now, obviously, I can make it to that position, but I've had a little bit of back tightness lately, and that's feeling a bit too intense for me, so I'm going to stay here on my hands. You could also have your hands on the back of the chair. As we've held this for a little bit of time, my legs naturally straightened, my hamstrings felt comfortable and open enough to do that. It's also good to keep the knees bent the whole time and focus on the back opening rather than the stretch of the hamstrings. That's just an added bonus if you'd like to explore it. All right, last one or two breaths here. And you can use your hands to help yourself up. You might want to transfer them to the top of your thighs. Walk your hands up your body. Take a nice, big, nourishing breath in as you come to a stand. All right, you can take the block out and remove the chair. And now we are going to come to face down on the mat, and this is where you're going to need your little blanket roll or your towel. So I find that this is a pretty thin blanket, that a very thick blanket is not needed here. So a thick towel, a beach towel, or a thin blanket works pretty well. I'm going to take my blanket and just roll it up so it's a little bit bulkier. Now, no need to worry about what it looks like. What we're trying to do is we're trying to find a spot where the blanket will fit right here in our hip crease. It's not going to be on the belly. We're going to be lying face down. So right in here and only on one side, so outside of your belly button. The placement is not so exact here, so a little bit of exploration is going to be needed to find what's right for you. All right, let's lie face down with the blanket. Start on whatever side you'd like. I'm going to start on the side closest to you. I'm going to come down. I'm going to roll to my side a little bit so I can try to scooch the blanket in there somewhere where I feel a little pressure of the blanket along my hip. It's going to feel like the back of your hip that is on the blanket is hiked up a little bit. The opposite hip I'm letting sink toward the ground. That front point of the hip sink toward the ground. Now I'm propping myself up just so I can talk to you. You can let yourself come all the way down, form a little pillow for your hands, or rest your head to one side. You can even have another little blanket or something here to support your head. So let your head be all the way down to the ground and be comfortable. And then on the same leg, the same side as we have the blanket, we're going to start to slide the knee up into a little bit of like a frog leg shape. Now you don't have to go far, whatever distance you can move the knee. Now when I did that, I felt some of the blanket pressure come off, so I'm just going to double up the blanket a little bit more there. And then from here, we're going to rest a bit. So this stretch is a pretty passive one. We're letting both sides of the front part of the hip, you'll notice there's that bony point that's called the ASIS. Letting both sides of the ASIS sink toward the ground. You might even have the gentlest scoop of your tail to encourage that sinking toward the ground. Front parts of our hips, the hip flexors, those parts get really tight and they're all connected to our back, so that could cause some of our back pain. We're simply trying to do a little bit of acupressure, self-massage work to loosen that up a little. All right, let's breathe here, sink into the ground for a few more breaths. And then remember, we move slow, gently start to scooch that leg back behind you. Take your little blanket or towel roll away and let yourself come down and feel for a few moments. You might feel that the hip side that we worked in a passive way, is a little bit more snuggled up to the floor now, is a little bit more released. All right, let's try the other side. I'm going to take my blanket roll. I'll stay facing the same direction. Tuck it in there, finding that spot somewhere right in that crease of the thigh. And then you might not see it as well as the side. I'm going to slide the knee up any amount, wherever it feels like you can get a comfortable rest. Now, if you had your head turned in one direction, you probably want to turn it in the other direction, toward the direction of your knee. If you need to adjust and get a little bit more blanket, maybe a thicker blanket, if you're not feeling much here, you can go ahead and try that. So this is a posture where we're really using the prop as a means to let our muscles soften around it. We're not actively grabbing the blanket. We're not actively engaging our muscles at all. We're letting everything be as melty, as sinky toward the ground as possible. And you can think of parts of your body that don't even have to work. If you feel any tightness or gripping in your face, your hands, see if you can let those areas release as well. All right, last few breaths here. And then start to let your second leg come down to meet the first. Roll off the blanket, scooch it aside, or give it a little rest for your head as you come down and feel how that side feels. And then use your hands to start to push your body back up. Moving slowly, remember, as we transition. And now we're going to come to the opposite, lying on our back, lying face up. If you'd like, you can take that towel or blanket and put it behind your head for a little bit of extra cushion behind your head. It's not necessary, but certainly an option. So roll down to your back or come to your side and roll onto your back. If you're using the little blanket, you can have that under your head as you bend your knees. And a little tilt of the chin toward the chest actually helps foster our relaxation response. So sometimes I like to double up my blanket a little bit so I get more of that chin tilt. And take a moment here. This pose is called constructive rest. You can do it with the legs parallel or the knees gently in toward each other. And place your feet so that they're close together. We're going to do sort of a 2-for-1 here. We're going to combine a pelvic rock, and the pelvic rock is when we rock up into our tailbone and then scoop so that we feel weightless in the bottom part of our tailbone. So move back and forth a little bit that way, and you can do a few of those if you want to try and see that. In and of itself can sometimes feel really soothing to our lower back. But we're going to combine that with another pose that feels soothing to the lower back or can be really helpful. And that's butterfly. Butterfly is when we open up our knees. Now we are not going to let the knees drop to their maximum. We're going to find a little bit of a range. We're going to play around with that with the pelvic rock. So have your feet close-ish together. Your hands can rest on your pelvis to feel that if you'd like, or they can be out by your sides, wherever you want. I keep mine resting on my front hip points to start. So as you start to open your legs, start to also come into a back arch, a pelvic arch. Notice how that's kind of natural as you open your legs. Sort of feels like your back wants to arch in that direction. And then whenever you get to, not your maximum, but it's a comfortable range, start to bring your knees back in, and as you bring your knees back in, press your sacrum down to the floor, take a little scoop for your back. So that's the movement. Open your legs, take a bit of an arch, and then bring your knees back in. Tuck your tail so that the lower back presses into the ground. Now I'm going to adjust my feet a little closer to my body. You can do that wherever it feels good to you, feet closer or further away. So this really is not about the range of how far our knees go when they open or they close. It's about exploring this dynamic movement and all the parts that are connected. Our hips, our glutes, our lower back. We're looking at trying to free up any area of tightness so that it doesn't affect us in the back, the lower back especially. And stay here and pause for a moment. A few breaths here. Let's see for a few rounds how it feels to do the opposite. So as you're here with the knees toward together, toward the ceiling, arch your back with the knees in. And then as you open your knees, let your back flatten. Bring your knees in and arch. And open and flatten. This might feel like you're kind of going against the grain on this one. Just see how it feels to stretch your back a little bit differently. Let's do last one. Back arches. Sacrum pushes against the ground as your knees open. And then come back together and once more rest for a moment here. All right, we're going to keep the feet close together, and we're going to take the legs side to side together this time. This is sort of like a windshield wiper move, but we're not going to move the legs or the knees as far apart as you would traditionally for more of a windshield wiper. And you'll see as I start to do it. Your hands might be out as an anchor. They can be in a cactus shape or by your sides. Let's see, I'll try the cactus shape here. So I'm going to move my knees away from you. And as I move my knees away from you, you'll see that I come to the outer edge of one foot and the other foot lifts off the ground. My knees are together and my feet are still together. So I'm not taking myself all the way down to the floor. I'm coming, maybe 45 degrees, maybe a little more. The hip is going to lift the opposite direction of my knees. And then gradually I'm going to come back through center, press my lower back into the ground, and then begin rolling to the second side. And you might notice there's a natural bit of an arch to the lower back as you roll to the side. And then as you come through center, there's a little tendency or maybe a desire to tuck and press. So let your back arch and press into the ground. If that feels natural, if you don't know, don't worry about it. This is a movement you can even try in bed if you are in a significant amount of pain. And you might want to go for a really short range. So when you roll your knees over, let your opposite foot barely lift off the ground. Press your knees a little bit in that direction. Press into the foot that's still on the ground. Come back through center and the opposite direction. Sometimes when we're feeling discomfort, in order to get out of it, we might have to feel a little bit of discomfort. But if you are in pain and you do a movement that causes your pain to worsen, or you feel something that's really sharp and shooting, absolutely not. That's not what we're looking for in any kind of movement practice. And sometimes when the tissues are under some gentle stretch, there might be a little bit of temporary discomfort in more of a diffuse, localized way. All right, let's take one more time each side. And back through center. And once again, take a moment in constructive rest. If you'd like, you could widen your feet, maybe even all the way to the edges of your mat. Let your knees come together. Take a few breaths here. Then gently roll your body to one side and use your hands to help you come up. Okay, so we'll finish with a rest. I'm going to show you several different options for how you might want to rest with some support for your spine, and then I'm going to allow you time to stay in that rest. So you choose whatever works best for you, for your body. So one version is to use your blanket. Now this is a pretty thin blanket, so this is where you might want something a little thicker. I'm going to try it with my thin blanket. And I'm actually going to take a block at the top. That's going to be almost a little pillow for my head. So the blanket is going to be a support for the center of my spine. My bottom is going to be off the blanket. So the very bottom of my tailbone is where the blanket is going to start. I'm going to roll back on the blanket. And I have my little block pillow here. You might have an actual pillow, is fine. I'm going to rest like this. I like to rest here with my knees bent. You could also explore lengthening the legs or putting another blanket underneath the knees. So the support under our spine gives the body the opportunity to melt from side to side over the spine. This is one of my favorite ways to practice Shavasana or rest, whether I'm in pain or not. I love resting in this way. If you have a longer blanket, you might not even need a pillow or a block. You'll see I have a little stub. If I had a longer blanket, I'd be able to roll the end of the blanket and tuck that under my head there as a pillow. So if that's working for you, do stay there and enjoy your rest. I'll show you another option. And this is with the chair. This is another really lovely version of rest. I'm going to pull the chair toward me. I'm only going to have the front two legs of the chair, but I'm not standing or using it for balance, and I don't think my chair is going to roll away here. You might enjoy your blanket over the edges of your chair. If it's a metal or even a wood chair, you might want to soften that a little bit. And then we're going to roll so that our shins are on the chair. Now this can be a little tricky, especially if you're in a little back discomfort. So allow your body to scooch really close to the chair. So my side hip is to the chair. And then as you lean back on your arms, bring your shins up to the chair and lie back down. You might even have to reach your hands to shimmy the chair closer to you. If this doesn't work with a chair, or a chair feels way too high, grab 2, maybe 3 sofa cushions, put them under your shins. It's fine if the shins aren't quite as high as this or aren't quite parallel. We all have different proportions to our legs too. So this is a support where our feet, our knees are higher than the torso, higher than the hips. It really can allow us to rest, let the whole hip girdle, pelvis, everything in this area that's connected to your back, rest against the ground. And again, your arms can be wherever brings you some comfort and rest. Popular positions are cactus, down the sides, palms up or down. And resting somewhere on your body. Maybe you rest one hand over your heart, one somewhere over your diaphragm. Feel the nourishing sense of your breath in your body. Taking a few moments to notice how you feel now. Notice what was useful to you in this practice, what brought you some relief. Stay here as long as you like. I'm going to start to roll up. If you're rolling up with me, you want to gently take your legs off the chair. You might disturb your blanket or other props. Roll your body to the side. And once again, use your hands to push yourself up and find a comfortable seat. So I really appreciate you being here for this practice and supporting my channel. If you've already liked and subscribed to my channel, that'll help us support even more. It gives me feedback as well, lets me know that you're enjoying what I have to offer. You can make any requests down in the comments. If you want to try some of my other back videos, I've done several, so take a look here and try something maybe a little that requires a little more of your energy if that works for you today. I hope you're feeling more comfortable. Have a great rest of your day.